This is Pathway to Health with Dr. Krygier.
Hi, welcome to Pathway to Health with Dr. Krygier. I'm your host, Randy Nunez, and today we're going to talk about your immune system. But before we talk about that, I'd like to introduce our special guest, as usual, Dr. Michael Krygier. Welcome, Dr. Krygier.
I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. So before we start, can you tell us a little bit about your practice?
My practice, the name of my practice is Chiropractic and Alternative Health Services. I'm located in Farmington Hills, and I've been in practice for about 17 years, and we do chiropractic, which is structure function stuff for discs, nerves, and facets. Treating people from athletes to, kids with ear infections that have, that need adjustments. And on the second side of our practice is alternative medicine or integrative medicine per se, where I do lectures and, such as, talks such as this. I help with, people, put them on programs for diabetes, cancer, like we're going to talk about the immune system today, liver function. There's a whole slew of things you can do that I try to uncover in my practice so that I can help the public. Well,
very good. So we're going to talk about the immune system today. So I think everyone has an idea of what the immune system is, but it's a really complicated inner workings of the human body. So can you explain to us in a layperson's terms as possible, how does the immune system really work?
Well, first of all, the immune system obviously is very intricate and complicated, and there's people out there right now receiving government funding, private research, trying to unravel everything about the immune system and its inner workings. In our office, I wanted to explain a little bit the tools we use so that when somebody comes in with an immune system problem, we could do blood work. We could do the ACERA, which is bioresonance testing to assess the immune system that we're going to talk about. I do hair analysis because hair analysis is a big part of how the immune system functions. If there's heavy metals or issues, then that needs to be seen and taken care of. The other thing I use is CRA. And so those
CRA stands for
contact reflex analysis by the founder, Dr. Dick Versendahl.
Okay.
So those are the tools I use. Getting into the immune system. The immune system is basically you have a primitive part of your immune system, and then you have more of a they call it the innate immune system, and then you have a secondary immune system or an adaptive immune system. The innate immune system is basically our skin, our mucous membranes of our mouth, our cavities, cilia, which are hair, and the lungs to move mucus that's secreted. There's some cells called phagocytic cells that get activated, which actually clean up. Phagocyte means to chew, and then clean up cells. And then there's some chemicals going on in the background. There's also a fever that, I'm always surprised that in today's day and age, as soon as we get a fever, we automatically suppress it, which is I think contrary to what our immune system wants to do, because that's in its way one of the main activating factors to overcome an infection, whether it's a bacteria, virus, parasite, fungi, whatever it may be. It's important that we take measures to control it if it gets out of hand. But I think we got to look and see, maybe we should let this run a little bit and allow the immune system to express itself.
So one of the misnomers out there that fever is bad, and it's actually part of the body's reaction to try to make things better, which is an immune system reaction. You don't want it to go too far.
Exactly.
But we've somehow got confused in saying all fevers are bad, and really there's only probably a smaller percentage that might be dangerous. So we might actually be fighting against the body instead of having the body work
exactly.
for us.
And there's a when you deal with fevers, I mean, and I see them in my office or whatever, you always want to look at the child, see if the child's in distress or the adult's in distress, obviously. If they're burning up, you take, your medical measures. But a lot of times if it's a fever, let it sit there for 3 to 5 hours, get plenty of hydration, get your electrolytes, but let it sit there and let it try to burn that infection or whatever it's trying to do with the immune system. So I think it's important that we stand back and sometimes let things happen as they're supposed to.
So we have all these different parts of the body. Is there some kind of coordinating element around the immune system? Or
well, like I said, we have the innate immune system, which is your skin, your natural barriers, your stomach acid for your foods. Make sure there's no bacteria in your foods. Then we have certain cells that if you cut yourself, they're already there. They kind of take care, make sure there's no infection. Now, if you end up breaking tissue and there's an infection that gets in and the infection gets into the cells, there's a system, there's the adaptive system where the body uses certain cells like T helper cells to activate a whole different barrage of things. And the first things are they're going to create lymphocytes, and lymphocytes are important for creating B cells, which are important, I'll explain in a second, and T cells. And those B and T cells, the B cells are responsible for making antibodies, actually, and the T cells are important for identifying if something is self or non-self, because in the immune system, it's a surveillance system. So we got to find out what doesn't belong there. So T cells are responsible for docking or going onto the antigen or the foreign substance that doesn't belong in the body, and then it tells it kind of memorizes it, tells it what it is, and then if it's bad, then they engage in the B cells, and the B cells actually make antibodies, and then the antibodies start being produced by cells called plasma cells, and those plasma cells produce the antibodies, and those antibodies go and start tagging, and then when the body sees those antibodies, now it knows, hey, the immune system says, hey, that doesn't belong here, so then it starts to make, it starts to bring everybody together and go after those things that don't belong there.
So the T cells are sort of like the scouts. They sort of go out and figure out what's going on.
Right.
And the B cells are more like the soldiers, where they take that information and use that to fight whatever doesn't belong in the body.
Correct. And the T cells also can fight on their own too. So they have another system, which are the T cells. There's another side on the T cell side that allows the body to release specific chemicals, and the T cell can actually go and attack specifically certain things, while helper T cells, which are produced by T cells, can go out and take care of the B cells. So they work, intricately, but they're real specific. The adapted side of your immune system is what they try to influence with vaccines and acquired immunity. As you go through life, you're exposed to different things, and your body wants to be able to recognize those. And B cells and T cells both have memory cells. So once you have first exposure to those, then those memory cells can identify and say, hey, oh yeah, we had a second exposure, we know what to do now. And it's already primed and ready to go. So on the immune side, or on the innate side, the cells, it's just attack. And then on the adaptive side, it's a little bit more selective, and they're being a little bit more specific, and they're trying to create a immunity as you go.
So I've heard this term natural killer cells before. Where does that fall within this spectrum of the
Well, natural killer cells, it's interesting. They fall kind of between innate and adaptive, where they're kind of in the middle. They can go, they're really on the innate side, where they can go and they circulate in the blood, and they can go and scavenge throughout the body. And nothing has to be activated, on a per se, that we know about, because we don't know what we breathe or what we eat, but they're always on prowl. And the research shows that is a good opportunity, depending on what your situation is. But in 80 to 90% of the cases, it's important to raise those natural killer cells, because there's a lot of things that can suppress them and therefore influence how your immune system gets expressed.
So somehow they're on their own. They're sort of freelance,
Yep.
and they can sort of know what should belong there, what shouldn't belong there, and they will go after the things that don't belong there, and things that do, they sort of leave it alone?
Well, what's neat about them is they can go after cancer cells, they can go after viruses. So they just have to have the opportunity to have the abundance to go and to be activated and prowl and surveillance, the system. But which leads into probably later is what causes our immune system to be suppressed? Well, if your natural killer cells are suppressed, the first sign that your natural killer cells are suppressed is you end up with or herpes or shingles. The research shows that as soon as those two infections show up in your body, or they're expressed in your body, because most of them have that, and your body's not regulating it correctly, then your natural killer cells are falling, and that's bad.
So that was the next question. So one of the questions I have is, what are some of the common problems that you deal with the immune system?
Well, right now, everything's involved with the immune system. The immune system overlaps all the systems of the body. So right now, there's a lot of autoimmune diseases. There's about 50 million people in America that have autoimmune diseases, which is, it could be lupus, it could be Raynaud's syndrome, it could be Graves' disease with the thyroid, Hashimoto's disease, it could be celiac disease. There's a whole abundance of them.
And the autoimmune issue is the body's attacking itself?
Well, I tend to disagree with that theory, so I'm going against the grain on that. I think there's still something there initiating that autoimmune response, and it's not our own tissues. So I'm just not sold on that. So I'm more on the side of, hey, the body's doing it, it's being activated. Yeah, there might be some circumstances where you might have one or two cases, a rare case. But when you have 50 million people that have autoimmune disease, there's something else going on there, and it's just not, the body just doesn't attack itself unless there's something in there that's initiating it.
And allergies are a form of autoimmune?
Correct.
Now, I never understood how I could eat a peanut and be perfectly fine, and yet one of my daughter's neighbors, if they eat a peanut, they'll go into anaphylactic shock. And we both have basically similar physiology. Is that part of the immune system? There's a challenge there with how it operates?
I think that's part of the adaptive immune system and how it was tagged, what initially was the exposure. I believe there's there's kind of an innocent bystander thing with the peanut issue. Sometimes it's the protein that you could be allergic to. That for some reason the immune system doesn't, it overreacts to it. But there's also an issue with mimicry, where you could have a fungus or a mold or a mildew on that peanut, and then that could initiate it, and then now the peanut was the initial, was never the problem, or the protein was never the problem, but the immune system tagged that also because it was an innocent bystander. It was really a fungal problem or an issue with the mold growing on the peanut.
Well, it was more of a carrier than the cause, if you will.
So that has to be looked at. There's no absolutes in that, but that has to be looked at, and I think that's very contributory to the issue. Because I know if there's about 15 million people that have food allergies out there, which is a major issue. So every 3 minutes, somebody's being sent to the hospital because of some type of anaphylactic issue. There's a lot of people out there across America that have a lot of allergies, and these are the type of things that you can try to find. Locate, do a test, find out what works, see what things you should avoid. I think everybody has 4 or 5 things that they need to avoid out of their diet, whether they like it or not, and confront that. And once they know that, a lot of allergies lead into infections. People don't realize it overreacts the immune system, and now it allows a secondary infection to come in because of the primary allergy, or it's vice versa.
So what are some of the signs and symptoms that the immune system is not working right?
Well, as a kid, I know from my own experience as a kid, being an asthma and allergy kid, I've had over 3 sets of tubes put in my ears. So chronic ear infections, chronic upper respiratory infections, allergies, any type of allergies, the 1 or 2 things, not a big issue, but when every summer, every summer I get if you get an allergy to something and you have an allergy reaction every summer, or now it's the fall, now I get sick every fall. It seems like you get sick the same time every year. That tells me that the immune system's going awry and something needs to step in and help it.
Any other kind of symptoms?
Chronic headaches. Headaches is a big issue because a lot of people don't realize that, most of the time the immune system's underfunctioning and needs to go and take care of possibly a infection in the head, in the tissues or in the meninges or wherever it is. It's not all, this acute run to the hospital and then that's it. There's some things that are chronic, low grade. Chronic sinusitis is your immune system's always. Mayo Clinic came out with a study and they found that 90% of people that have chronic sinusitis have fungi in their sinus cavities. So that tells me that it's not an immune system problem. It tells me that you might be, your pillow might be moldy. You're sleeping on a pillow because of the moisture and all that might grow on the pillow. You might have not cleaned your air cleaner or your filtration system every 3 to 4 months, or you might have black mold in your house or your basement or your bathroom. So that is an immune system issue that has to do with the immune system, but it's not the main cause. But we'll still have to implement the immune system to help get rid of that.
So it's back to you have a symptom that might lead you in one direction, but the cause is probably something different.
Right. Yeah, and that happens a
careful
lot
with
with working with people with any condition. You gotta use discretion. You gotta find out if they're on the underactive side of the immune system or they're on the overactive side of the immune system. So I think that's the discretion of the doctor and relying on those tests that I mentioned earlier that you can use as clues to get to the issue.
Yes, as you said before, it's a very complicated
right.
system. People are still studying it. We still don't know all the answers, so it's good to have healthcare practitioners to help us through that. So what behaviors do we do that contribute to immune system problems?
Well, the biggest thing is, and I have a slide in here, is our nutrition. I have 2 studies. In that I pulled up. That this one was done in 1978, but it says that a regimen of these specific vitamins and amino acids actually protected. They protected against a cytotoxic or a toxicity within the cells of the body that could lead to anything: autoimmune, cancer, diabetes. Basically, your nutritional status actually protected you from, insecticides, pesticides, which they showed in the study. They also showed that another pesticide on brain toxicity, because there's a lot of dementia out there and a lot of people are malnourished and they don't realize it. You can use nutrition to support detoxification pathways. This is an example that was done in 2012 in the in Toxicology and Individual Health. This was basically using vitamin E and vitamin C, and they exposed the environment and the test subject to pesticides, and they gave them vitamin E and vitamin C, and it conferred protection. So that's my, I want to stress that, I have a daily protocol that I recommend people take. That daily protocol is insurance to make sure that your nutrition is up here, and that if you get exposed to something, that your body can react quickly. And those nutrition is actually your weaponry, and people don't realize that that's your arsenal to help fight and engage the immune system. And a lot of us are malnourished, and we can't put up a fight. Now we got to substitute something for an antibiotic, or we got to use another medication, and our immune system should be engaging in 95% of these and winning, and they're not. So that's the point.
Nutrition sounds like it's a very important factor in
Right.
in keeping a healthy immune system. What other kind of things do people do that perhaps don't optimize their immune system? Things like sleeping patterns or exercise.
Sleep is huge. I mean, they found in a study that if you got less than 7 hours of sleep, you were 3 times more likely to contract a virus or a bacteria or flu, and germs are everywhere. So that's just saying you're just walking around, and if you don't have enough sleep and you can't engage your immune system, your chances are real high to get sick. So I think getting anything above 7, good steady 8 hours of sleep. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot going on out there, but 8 hours of sleep is the minimum, I believe.
What about exercise? Does exercise play a role in the immune system?
Exercise helps in the immune system. Exercise can raise your natural killer cells that we talked about. There's better and other ways to do that, but exercise is always good. I mean, people always feel better. People always feel peaceful after they've exercised. They just feel a calm sense. It gets rid of anxiety. Anxiety is a major issue in a lot of diseases. So if you can do something to offset anxiety, like a 20 or 30 minute exercise program, 2 to 3 times a week, I mean, that's huge for your health.
It's not only good for you, but it helps in the stress side, and,
Right.
and stress is a big factor in terms of your health overall, as well as your immune system.
Right, and with the immune system, there's a lot of stressors, whether it's infection, whether it's psychological, whether it's chemical. There's a lot of stressors, and too many stressors tend to exhaust the adrenals, and the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys, and they're responsible for initiating immune system and creating cortisol for inflammation, to control inflammation. And if that happens too much, then your body becomes suppressed. So stress is a huge issue.
So there's a lot of basic things that we do or don't do in our life that contribute to the immune system. You're undernourished, so you need nutrition.
Right.
You don't get enough sleep, so you need to get more sleep.
Yep.
You're not exercising, so
Not
you need to get
exercising,
more exercise. And then
I think
stress and anxiety are big factors in terms of your emotional health as well as your physical health.
Yep. And I think another one is alcohol and tobacco. The natural killer cells are made in the liver. So if you don't have a healthy liver, you can't make more natural killer cells. They're always busy handling these other things, and if you're actually stepping on the very organ that's supposed to help you by consuming alcohol and beers and wines and all that stuff, not in moderation, then you're asking for immune system problem because you have a liver challenge, and the liver is very responsible for the immune system.
So it sounds like the same cast of characters over and over again.
Right. Yeah.
All right. So are there any, and when you talk about becoming nutritionally well, are there certain foods or certain types of things we can do from herbs or something generically that we could do to help our immune system, or are there foods or other things that hurt our immune system? So let's talk about the things we can do to help nutritionalize our bodies.
Well, sugar's general, but refined sugars, cookies, candies, cakes, pastries, pastas, all those main sugars that everybody likes, it's human to like that. But the point is that sugar suppresses your immune system. They did a study, and it was interesting. It suppressed your immune system by 50%.
Wow.
So we might be using too much sugar. We might be consuming too many soda pops. Too much, all the things I mentioned. But it was a major issue.
Any other things besides sugar that really can weaken your immune system?
Well, any of our chemicals. There's a lot of chemicals in our food. The monosodium glutamates, the food additives. I'm not going to get into them all here, but food additives in themselves, anything that's bagged, packaged, if it's bagged or packaged, it's not found, on the outside of the grocery store, boxed, anything in boxes, all those foods are have to have some type of additive to stay in that package. So just be aware that if you have a sensitivity or an intolerance to those things, well, you shouldn't be doing them anyway. But unfortunately, that might be all that's available. Okay. So just be aware of that, and that's what I'm here for, is just to make you aware. Shed some light on what things I can do for your immune system. Everybody gets the scare tactic that the flu's coming. We don't know what strain it is. We got the shots ready. We've stockpiled them. I have a program, a simple program that people can follow, and I call it my, it starts October. I have them start my patients October, and I have them go until March. So I use their tactics to say, hey, you know what? You need to be on this program, get your immune system up, clean up your diet. I think in Michigan, we see almost 265 days of overcast, which is huge, because in Michigan, we're in the ice age here. If you look back in history, we have 4 seasons. We're in and out of seasons all the time. We don't get a lot of sun. So the sun and vitamin D is shown in the research to be very important, and we think we're getting enough. I think I got enough a couple days ago, standing on the sidelines of a football game, but I don't think we get enough. I don't think our exposure is enough. And even if we thought we had enough, go in and get it tested, because when they did a study out in California, they tested 100 people, 25% of the 100 people were bad converters of vitamin D. So that means that they couldn't even convert it because of maybe their genetics were a little bit off. And they're sitting in the sun, not getting the benefits of that. So, so that's a simple way of finding out how your immune system is. Check your vitamin D status. Increase your natural killer cells. And there's ways to do that are natural through herbal supplements, all that stuff that I provide, and I test and find out what would be best for you.
Very good. So vitamin D, there are some herbals you can do.
Yep.
Any certain kind of foods that are better for you?
Well, I tend to keep, I'm a big Dukan diet guy. I like Dukan. It's the French nutritionist a diet. It's basically meats, nuts, seeds, and vegetables. So it's a very primitive diet. Some are Paleolithic. It's very similar to Paleolithic. But I'm big in getting my proteins and getting my vegetables. Fruits are, in moderation. If I don't push myself in that direction, then I tend to start eating, the pastas, the pizzas, all those high carbohydrate breaded things that, will eventually become a problem.
Interesting. So where can people go to find out more information about how the immune system works and how they can keep it healthy?
Well, there is so much information out there. Trying to the web is probably one of the best things. WebMD. You can go to my website. There's a lot of information on my website.
It's drkrygier.com.
Yep, it's drkrygier.com. Even your local bookstore. I read all the research, so I look at all the journals and stuff. But if you're interested in that, then looking at the journals, going to PubMed, searching immune system, searching natural killer cells, searching vitamin D. Putting in things that the buzzwords that I mentioned through this talk will give you a lot of good information.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for joining us. That's about all the time that we have. Stay tuned for future episodes of Pathway to Health with Dr. Krygier.
Thank you, Randy.